Hello and welcome to my Fall Guys top tips on how to win more crowns. In this video we're going to look at a variety of different games and I will explain some of the tricks that I use to help me get those shiny crowns. If you are new here, please consider clicking that subscribe button, but otherwise sit back, relax and let's get started. First up we have Door Dash, one of my favorites. The aim of this game is simple: run through the doors until you reach the finish line. Easier said than done, right? The general strategy for this game is to hang in the middle of the pack and just follow the already opened doors. However, sometimes you start at the very front, and I personally like to try my luck, at least at the first few rows. You will likely fail early on, which will then move you back to the middle, which allows you to follow the leaders again. Just remember one golden rule: only try one door per row. Once you face plant into a door, it's time to hang back and wait for another door to be opened for you. The reason people fail this game is because they try multiple doors and the RNG gods completely ruin their day. This is how you end up in last place. Next, we have Egg Scramble. Team games. Either a breeze or an absolute nightmare. The aim of this game is simple: get as many eggs into your team's basket as possible before time runs out. The team with the fewest eggs at the end of the round loses. First thing you want to do, provided you are one of the closer beans, is make a beeline straight for the golden eggs. These babies are worth 5 points each and often determine whether your team will win or lose. Do anything you can to stop other teams from taking a golden egg, but try not to get in the way of your own team members. If they're all going for the same golden egg, get out of their way and go and collect other eggs. Once all the eggs have been collected from the middle, it's time to check which team is losing and go and steal as many eggs from their basket as possible. If it's your team, then get back and defend. The main idea behind this game is to have some players defending and some stealing. Stop and have a look at where your team needs you the most and fill that role. If you play your cards right, you will occasionally destroy a team so badly that you can literally dance on their basket while they sit there with 0 eggs in it. Next up is Tail Tag, a true nail-biting game that has left me frustrated once or twice. The game is simple: grab a tail and make sure you have one when the timer hits 0. Sounds fairly easy. The biggest tip I can give you is to not chase people. You run at the same speed as everyone else, and when you're reaching out to grab, you actually slow down a little bit. You want to be cutting people off rather than just following them. See where they are heading and try and predict where they might go next. Once you have a tail, it's time to evade. I personally like the strategy of running around the center ring, as the visibility there is really low. However, keep in mind that this strategy is becoming less and less effective as people are catching on, and I occasionally go there to actually steal tails rather than trying to hide my own. It all depends on the lobby. If the center ring is being crowded, then go somewhere else. Perhaps the big hammer at the top. You can use this hammer to hit yourself away if you get into trouble. This can be a great escape strategy. I would also recommend sticking close to other players that have tails. There is always safety in numbers. Moving on to the Whirlygig, one of my favorite races as there are so many little tricks that you can use. First off is the ramp at the beginning. If you start at the front, you can actually use this ramp to propel you forward by stacking jumps on the way down. I don't recommend doing this if you start further back, as the crowd can cause you to fall over, but if you're at the front, go for it, like this guy. The next trick is letting the spinning bar hit you. Ideally you want it to hit you closer to the end of the bar, as that has more force and can shoot you further. Keep in mind that this trick does not work 100% of the time, as there is usually 20 other players also trying the same thing. But even if you don't get launched all the way forward, it can still sometimes put you close to the front of the pack, which is great. Next, you want to keep your speed and jump onto the yellow box in order to make it up. Sometimes these can be very crowded, and it can actually be quicker to just pull yourself up. The middle of the course is pretty self-explanatory until you get to the final section. Just don't get hit by anything. Once you get to the end, taking the middle path is actually not as dangerous as people think, and I can get through it generally about 80% of the time. All you need to do is hug the left side of the ramp and jump and dive just before the ramp levels out. If you time it right, you will belly flop right under the propeller, which saves you a load of time. Lastly, just be patient in waiting for the final windmill. Rushing is what will make you fall. Put all of these tips together and you'll be well on your way to waving at your friends on the finish line. Jump Club, another fun one, very easy if you understand how it works. There are 2 beams, a big pink one and a small green one. The only way you can get knocked off by these, provided you aren't a complete klutz, is if the 2 beams line up as they reach you. The best way to fight this is to simply follow the green bar at the start. Run around the platform in a clockwise direction as the beams are moving so slowly they can barely keep up with you. You can literally last the first 10 to 15 seconds before you even have to jump at all. Eventually though, the beams will start to move faster than you. Now you need to get your timing right. Keep running in a clockwise direction, but make sure that you cross under the pink beams to get quick jumps in before returning to running. Get this right and you should end up with a 100% win rate for this game, provided nobody griefs you, which can happen. Now we move on to the worst race of them all, Seesaw. The main aim for this game is to try and get ahead of the pack. Being stuck with the big group in the middle can be really annoying, especially if the group's average IQ is towards the lower end of the scale. There are some tricks you can use though. Firstly, run on the side walls. It is not only faster, but it makes it easier to get onto the next seesaws even when they're high up. If you're lucky enough to start at the front, then you should be able to hold the lead right to the end. However, if you are unfortunate and stuck with the big pack, then it's time to exercise patience. Firstly, I try to drop into the next ramp with the smallest fall distance. Sometimes just walking off rather than jumping keeps my balance and allows me to run across faster. If you come up to a ramp that is super tilted and filled with players, just wait. There is no point in trying to get on the ramp that will clearly just kill you. Wait for others to slide off and the ramp to level out a bit better before going. Also remember to never dive on a slanted ramp. You will fall 100% of the time. The last tip for this game is to never give up. This game can take ages to finish, so you have time. Just be patient and never give up. Moving on to Gate Crash, a simple game but one that will punish you severely if you make a mistake. The gates at the start are easy, they are slow, and if you're struggling to get past the first gate, then well, I don't think I can really help you. This game is all about timing, so get that right and you will be golden. Keep in mind that you want to go through the middle gates when the path splits. The outer gates only go down once every 3 times the middle ones do. At the end, aim for a gate that is currently on its way up. Alternatively, you can position yourself in between 2 gates and pick whichever one is down at the time. Keep in mind that if you are far behind, you can use the same jump technique to propel yourself forward, but I wouldn't recommend using it unless you absolutely have to. Next up is Rollout, another game that is easy provided there aren't too many griefers. My strategy for this is to literally stay between 2 of the end platforms. I like to choose the sides that have the least amount of players. Obviously this sometimes changes as people move back and forth, but try to hang around on the side that has the least amount of players at the beginning. Then it's as easy as just moving back and forth between the 2 platforms. However, don't dash back and forth for no reason. If you have a big section, then just run along it like it's a normal treadmill. Just remember not to stand too close to the edges, as you will be an easy target for griefers. A lot of people think that you need to be as central as possible, but you can actually stay on these platforms for a lot longer than you think. I constantly seen people moving back and forth between platforms, ending up exactly where they would have been had they not moved at all. Be smart about it, and don't forget that the walls are your friends. Use them. Tiptoe. This is a fun one. Find the hidden path and win. From the start, just go for it. Dying here does not matter at all, and sometimes you can get lucky. There have been countless videos that have been posted on YouTube these days of people managing to get all the way to the end without failure. You just need to remember a few things. Tiles that wobble are not real tiles, so don't bother testing them. Knowing this can be crucial at the end when trying to find the last few tiles. Once you get closer to the end, stick with the pack. Don't be a hero. Unless you actually know what the path is going to be based off wobbles, just wait for other people to test it out. Once you're at the very end and looking at the last 2 tiles, they will go in a line. So if you stand on the second last tile and it lights up, then charge for the finish. And that's pretty much it for this one. Be careful of people pushing and good luck. On to Dizzy Heights. Fairly straightforward. To start with, follow the path of the arrows. Don't try to fight the rotation, you won't win. Once you pass the balls, try to go down the right path at the end as it's faster based on the rotation of the last wheel. And lastly, jump at the end. Don't be that guy that falls down the gap. Otherwise, this one is pretty straightforward. On to Hit Parade. Likely the most unforgiving, as you can't really fail until you get near the end, and if you do, then it can be all over. Start as usual and don't worry if you fall down. Once you get to the doors, stick with the crowds. As you make your way down, Look at the doors at the end. It can sometimes be better to go for the side rather than pushing through the middle. Once you get to the balls, hug the sides until the finish line. I personally like the right side, but the left side works just as well. This allows most of the swinging balls to miss you, as well as the poles and the slime. This race is an easy win if you just don't get hit by the balls, so take it slow if you need to. Rock and Roll. The game where if you have a team of new players, there is likely nothing you can do to win. For starters, do not jump into the ball. These balls do not move like the football and fall ball. You need to push them. Simply run into the ball and roll it forward. Make sure you work with your team by pushing from points that make sense. For example, if most of the members are towards the left side of the ball, then push from the right side. If your team makes it down first, then stick with it and stop defenders from blocking your ball. If your team isn't first, you want to have a few members go ahead and stop the other teams. Keep in mind that you definitely want at least 3 to 4 members still pushing the ball, as the final lip requires a bit of oomph. Fruit Shoot, a game that rewards a keen eye. Sometimes you will get hit with a barrage of fruit, but luckily this game usually does allow second chances. For starters, you can use the same jump technique we talked about earlier, but it's not necessary. Personally, I like to jump at the end and dive when I'm fairly close to the ground. This prevents my bean from losing balance and allows me to start running quickly. Stick to the edges and use the pyramids to protect yourself if need be. Point your camera up and keep an eye on where the fruit is being shot to. You can also use dive to avoid any fruit coming right for you. This is faster than actually getting hit and trying to get back up again. Lastly, never stick to the middle. You will just get destroyed. Hex-a-gon, probably the best game in Fall Guys, at least in my opinion. I have seen many strategies for this, like dropping to the bottom and creating a big hole, or playing as slowly as possible by hopping from one tile to another. I personally like the aggressive approach, running in front of people and cutting others off where you can. You will be surprised how often people struggle to concentrate when someone is running in front of them. If you find yourself on a section by yourself, closer to the bottom, then it's time to start hopping. Also, don't forget to look down. Sometimes it's better to drop down a level earlier than to finish the tiles on your current level. Finally, the dreaded Fall Mountain. First thing to know is the right side is slightly faster, but if you start on the left, it's probably better to stick to the left. At the beginnings, don't run down the sides. Always run straight. It's much faster. Once you get past the first revolving doors, remember to tilt your camera up to see where the balls are traveling. The middle right lane is the safest, but unfortunate things can still happen. Once you get to the diamonds, use them. They are a lifesaver and can literally be the difference between a win or second place. Once you reach the spinning hammers, always go through so that if you get hit forward. Don't try to fight the hammers, you will lose most of the time. If you get to the final stretch and the crown begins rising out of reach, make sure you keep your momentum by going in circles. Stopping and then starting again is slower and can cost you a win. Lastly, and I cannot stress this enough, you need to grab the crown. I still see countless players slam headfirst into the crown and then just drop down and lose. It's fairly entertaining, but don't let it happen to you. And that's all I have for you in this video. Hopefully you learnt a lot and you can go and apply some of these tips into your games and finally win some of those crowns. If I missed anything, please leave it down in the comments below. I know there were some games that I didn't cover, such as Slime Climb, but that has been so extensively covered on YouTube I feel it doesn't actually need to be covered again. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching and I will see you all in the next one.